my Walkabout Talk about natural disasters and using your RV basically as a bug out rig for evacuating your home base. Obviously, as RVers or anybody that camps out of their vehicle, we're prepared. They're made to be mobile, so we've got generators and food and clothing and shelter basically at our disposal when we have our RV. But I want to take it a little deeper and have it in your mind, especially since the recent fires in California and flooding back east, and we've had every year we seem to have more and more natural disasters. So but basically using your RV as a bug out rig, which is just a vehicle designed to be self-sufficient in an emergency for the occupants, that keep them safe and get them to a point where they can get away from a flood, a fire, any kind of natural disaster, earthquakes. I grew up in Southern California, and I said it in my little introduction the other day. We were either shaken or bacon, earthquakes or fires. So anyways, so when you have an RV, you obviously have shelter, so you got the main thing, because there's 5 categories of things you need to consider. Now, when I'm saying bug out rig, I'm talking about having a duffel bag or an area of your RV that is strictly set up for emergencies. Now, if you're living in your RV, obviously, as long as you have these things all the time in it, so that if you ever had to leave where you're camping or recreating at a lake or whatever and head to the hills, you could survive. They say 3 days. In my mind, you want to be able to stay about a week. I mean, I have seen cases of natural disasters, earthquakes, fires, and floods where you could go back to your house in 3 days, but I would be prepared for longer times. In my mind, I would say a week. So I'm going to go through these 5 categories. And the first one is environmental protection. So that's basically your shelter and your clothing. Your shelter being your RV, which is great. But if you got to a spot where, say, you had to leave the RV, you would want to have a tent or a tarp or something for sun protection, rain, snow, weather protection. So you'd want something overhead. And your clothing, you want to make sure you have a warm jacket. You want to make sure you have boots, hats, gloves, earmuffs, if that's the case. If you're going to be in snow areas, maybe some heat packs to warm your hands and toes. You might get a knock in the middle of the night and be in your bedroom slippers, or at the door grab your flip-flop. But you want to make sure you have a pair of sturdy shoes in case you have to hike up into the mountains. You never know in this day and age. And I don't want to say anything, but if there was a terrorist attack and you had to head to the hills, make sure you're prepared to kind of live off the land. So okay, environmental protection is the first category. And then water meaning enough water, which is a gallon per day per person in your family, in your group, in whoever's evacuating with you. And that includes babies and pets. And that gallon of water is for drinking, cooking, sanitation, etc. So that's number 2. You want to have a way with your water to filter it, or the tablets, the containers. We're hunters, so we always carry a charcoal activated water bottle in our backpacks in case we're low on our own water, or we just want to conserve it and come across the stream and the water runs through a charcoal filter and we can drink it. So we always have those. Food, you want to have, again, now this is FEMA's list. of things, but you want to have 3 days of food per person. I would again say more than that. Again, as hunters, we are very much into the freeze-dried meals, and we each carry a Jetboil, so we can cook our own food, heat water. Those freeze-dried meals are great. They are a lot of calories in them, you know, so for energy. And I buy them by the case during hunt season of the different flavors we like, because we don't like them all. Mountain House is the brand we prefer most of the time, but there's different ones. REI has some, Sportsman's, Cabela's. Everybody's got their own little brand, but I buy cases of them, of the ones we like. Plus energy bars, jerky, dried fruit. You don't want perishables, so you want everything non-perishable. At any one time, Ruby has at least 3 or 4 of those freeze-dried meals, because when I'm traveling by myself and I'm not set up somewhere and I'm just pulling over for the night, I heat water and have a lasagna or beef stroganoff, or those are a couple of my favorites. But so on the food, you just want to make sure you have enough food, and if you've got babies, you want to have baby food. Again, they have freeze-dried things and some little juices and stuff. Also under the food category, coffee and tea, if you don't want to just drink water. And you got to think of your pets, so you want to make sure you have 3 to 5 days worth of pet food, treats, and water for them. And I'd bring a toy or two, because they might get bored. So, and with kids, a game or cards or coloring book or something, at least something that would keep them a little bit occupied on long days. So anyways, I'm going to turn around and walk back. So on the food, that pretty much covers it. Just snacky stuff, peanuts, you know, any kind of nut would be good to have on hand. So number 4 would be sleeping bag, pillow. If you have to wear a sleeping mask that keeps light out, or earplugs, this could fall under the next category too, but melatonin or sleeping aids if you need them. Anything that keeps you comfortable for sleeping. Blow-up pillow. I have a sleeping bag always in Ruby that is down to -30. Never use it, but it's in there. All the RVs we carry sleeping bags in, so we could grab them if we had to. But you know, if you're in the RV, and I'm mostly doing this saying that you ought to be able to use your RV to shelter somewhere, shelter in place. So, and then the last category is first aid and hygiene. So obviously your toothbrush, toothpaste, comb, face wash, baby wipes, etc. for hygiene. And then your first aid kit, a basic first aid kit with band-aids and tourniquets and some pain reliever, and you know, and then also your supplements or anything you need, antacids or what else, Tylenol or aspirin, or definitely your prescriptions, and to the point where you probably should have some prescriptions ahead, because you might be far away from your pharmacy. The system might go down where you can't get communication to get a refill, even if you have refills left. So I would have extra prescription drugs on hand. That's kind of, you know, kind of a no-brainer. You would want that, especially if they're heart and things like that that you have to take every day. So those are the main things. The other things that FEMA said, a weather radio. Most of our iPhones now, as long as they're charged, you know, we can get weather and stuff, or smartwatches. I carry an inReach everywhere. I've had one for a few years. John has one too. Anytime I'm kayaking, I take it. E-biking. I believe they're really handy to have. I can get out messages if I need to, emergency messages if I had to. And then, So those are good. Another thing, you know, if you're in an RV, you might have a generator in it, but like Ruby, I have solar generators, and I have a small one. I've actually can take it on my e-bike on the rack. I mean, I guess I could take it on the kayak, but I'd have to waterproof it somehow. But have a small folding solar panel, and so that way at least I know I can recharge my phone. And the thing with communications that you need to think about too is that you want to not use your phone to be playing games and that kind of stuff, and using up your battery. You want to conserve your energy, your power, and conserve your energy too on yourself. But yeah, just, you know, think smart, and again, not be playing games. Bring a deck of cards. Teach your family how to play poker. But, you know, and communicate and find other things to do, but, you know, save the phones for an emergency. And then, what are some of the other things? I brought some notes I guess I could look at. Weather radio, first aid. There's something that they mentioned, FEMA, and I kind of don't agree with. I have full-time RV'd 3 different times, and the first time I was like 24 years old. And I never used to travel with my passport. I do now. Since 9/11, things have changed, and if I'm in Arizona and need to go to Mexico for something, dentist or whatever, it's handy to have, so I do travel with it. But FEMA actually says to keep all your medical records in a plastic bag or fireproof box and take them with you. And I know there'll be people that will disagree, and if you're a nomad, you live in your vehicle, you got all your belongings with you probably anyways, that's fine. But as somebody that has seen RVs catch fire or wreck on the highway and every belonging scattered across the half a mile of an interstate in bad weather, and half that stuff you never see again, I have always, when I full-timed, I always had a safe deposit box. So, and my marriage certificates, birth certificates, medical records, etc. stayed in that. And back in the day, the passport too. But now it's with me, just like my driver's license. But the rest of that stuff, I don't think everything, the deed to your house and all that, needs to be in your vehicle with you, as long as it's a place that's safe and you can get to eventually. It may not even be in the same state you're in, but you could get to it in a couple days if you had to get the title to your house for some reason, or the title to a vehicle, those kind of things. So you know, obviously there's people that full-time, but even when I full-time, that kind of stuff did not stay in the vehicle all the time. At a very young age, I witnessed a RV fire coming up I-70 out of Denver. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and the family lost everything, and all I remember was the lady saying, "Our marriage license, our birth certificates, the kids' baby books, they were all in there." And, you know, because we stopped, well, everybody had to stop, and my dad went up to see if he could help them. I think we gave him some food, and we were in our RV too. But that really impacted me, and like, well, that's not stuff you want to take with you, you know. But another thing, go a little further, and then I'll go back to the truck. It's getting cold. I got gloves on today. It's sunny, but it's cold. Protection. However if you carry. I'm a solo woman traveler a lot, and I carry. I believe in the right to bear arms, and but if not, some way to protect yourself. And something I'm going to add, because I've thought of this, have a place that has water and possibly shelter, if you could, and then firewood, so that you could stay warm, or you could cook, or if you had to shoot an animal to live, you could cook it. You know, you'd have to have some way to start a fire. Fire sticks would be good to have, some kind of way to start a fire. And there's all kinds of things nowadays that are small, backpackers carry. I carry those little sticks that you just light, and they're good. I use them actually when I'm doing my Dutch oven cooking. That's how I get my charcoal to start if I'm out boondocking. And I carry some of those. They're little squares, and they're like in a wax thing with sawdust, and they work really good. So, and they're minimal. So I walked up Cranky Trail. I'm going to walk back short to the truck. So anyways, it's just some things, you know, be smart. Think about how your RV is basically a bug out rig already and make it better. Keep it stocked. Now, I'm in Colorado in the winter. Ruby doesn't have water in her, but at any time, I have right where she parks, our barn's right next to it, and I have my own room of just stuff. I use it for selling through eBay, but I also have all of Ruby's stuff right behind the door, or whatever RV. There's at least always 8 to 10 gallons of water in containers, her blue container, and then for Ruby, I have a blue container and 3 1-gallon containers that go in the back of my truck when I go on any trip, especially if I'm going to boondock. And I start out with them full. Now, I can't keep them in her right now, and the 12-gallon tank in Ruby is winterized, so I have to use those. But they're ready to go. In the summer, I always keep the 12-gallon tank full of water. And there's clothes for all seasons. There's food for at least a week. But right now, that water's in that room, so it won't freeze, because that room is insulated, and I heat it. So I've got all the things that I need to grab. I could literally hook her up and be out of my driveway in 15 minutes. It would be something to kind of time. That actually would be kind of a fun thing to try, to pretend. I live in the National Forest, is right behind my house. And 2 summers ago, the fire behind our house crested the hill at night. John was in Montana hunting, and I was home with the dogs. And I thought we'd be evacuating. The wind shifted, so we didn't have to, but I could not sleep that night. So, you know, it's just a couple things like that, you know, that you need to think about. You know, what would you do if you had a fire behind your house, or a flood came, or, you know, an earthquake, or hurricane, or tornado, or any of that? You know, what would you do? What would be your, you know, way to get away quickly with your family and pets intact and safe, and be self-sufficient on your journey away from your home base, hoping that you can come back to it. I hope none of us ever experience having to leave our home base and not have something to come home to, but it happens. It's happening in California this past week, and it happened back east with the flooding a couple months ago, and yeah, it's scary, but just being prepared is a big part of being on top of any natural disaster. And along with all that, I'm going to say